Thanks, Connor. Welcome, everyone. This is I believe, our eighth community forum on November 19th, 2020 for the Mindess School Building Project. I want to open it up with a statement. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are utilizing the Zoom conferencing platform to conduct this forum, and all committee members are participating remotely. The goal is to maintain the spirit of the open meeting law, providing access and transparency to all proceedings. Public participation will be through the Zoom platform. To prevent disruption, participants will not be able to unmute themselves. Anyone wishing to comment, please use the raise hand feature within Zoom, and we will allow you to unmute to make your comment or ask your questions. If people are having problems with the raise hand feature, we will allow everyone to unmute at the end of the presentation for questions or comments. And what we do as well during this is we take a roll call for attendance for our committee members. And what I'll do is I'll just go through the list of the ones that I've seen, and anyone that I missed can chime in. I have myself, James Adams, Yolanda Greaves, Chris Matthew, Michael Kyra, Claudia Bennett, Talak, and Tim. Did I miss any members? All right. So without any further ado, this is as I said, our eighth community forum. The goal tonight, we're not going to try to dwell too much on the repetitive nature of some of the slides, because we want to have a comprehensive in case somebody hasn't been on the other ones, but we do have some new content and we'll want to share that. If we are in the middle of a presentation and someone does have a question, you're free to use the raise hand feature, and if we notice it, we can stop at whatever point, but we can also go back if we miss you. So without any further ado, we'll begin the presentation. Just the first couple of slides are more of an agenda setting for what we're going to be doing, going over some of the site planning, phasing, how the building's organized, some of this systems and sustainability, the schedule, some budget and reimbursement reviews, and we'll have some cost estimations as well. And then we'll have some discussions and questions at the end. Go to the next one, Bill.
Sorry, does it? Yep.
There you go. We just always post this. The committee's done a lot of work over the last couple of years, and so I want to publicly thank the committee members for this. And then if you keep on going, Bill. And this is the project team from Compass and the Flansburgh, the design team. As they present, I ask that they introduce themselves for anyone that hasn't been on our other forums. So, all right. So you want to take it away, Bill?
Sure. Thank you.
Great. I'm gonna jump in. I'm Ken Kovacs. I'm a principal for the Mindess School Project, and I'm going to begin the design portion with the overlook of the site. So here's an axonometric view. You can see all the different areas that are numbered with amenities, and we're really excited about this project because the new building will be built just north of the existing Mindess. And you can see that clearly in the illustration. And we have overall, we have play fields, we have a drop-off area. When we go into the next slide, you'll see in more detail, parking, outdoor amenities for learning, and play, and of course the academic building itself. And one thing we have when we go into the animation, you'll see how we have an access road around the back of the building that's for emergency vehicles only. And we're trying to take a light touch to this site because we know it's sensitive and we know we have neighbors adjoining this. And so we're taking a real sensitive approach to how this building is placed in the site in relationship to how the students will access it day to day, but also how the community will experience this building. Next slide, Bill. So in this site plan, this gives you a better look at the layout of the building. So there's a light dashed line that represents the existing Mindess, and that really stretches across the site kind of east to west. And so the new building will be positioned to the north of that. And there's ample room to construct this building safely and avoid and minimize disturbance to the ongoing activity of the school. So here you can see a large parking lot area that serves the school, and consolidating the parking really helps minimize the impervious pavement that's part of this project. So we're being very sustainable here and trying to have a light touch to the site. And so there's one larger parking lot to the east, and that accesses the school. And the blue dash line represents the parent drop-off. And with the amount of students for this project, we want to make sure that everybody gets off of the main road, that they have enough queuing space and storage length within the drop-off lane to get their cars off the road so we avoid congestion. And this is all to make a safer environment when we have pickup and drop-off. And a benefit to the site at Mindess, now we're able to have a clear, dedicated bus drop-off. And we have 18 buses shown in this loop. And as you can see, they're completely separated. So parents drop off, buses drop off, and they have exit points from the site completely separate. So this all helps for the safety of the students during pickup and drop off. And then we look at large field spaces to the east with the softball field and the baseball field. We have hardscape areas that could incorporate basketball courts or other activities. And again, we're in schematic design, so this is still early on in the process. And we're putting a lot of these activities that we see typically in public schools into the site plans, but we're gonna have further conversation of how these look and kind of feel with the site. And then the main building has a clear visual presence from the main access in, and we have as I said earlier, we have an emergency access road for vehicles, police and fire and service that wraps in the wooded area behind the building. And we're being very delicate to that area with this plan.
So my name's Bill Beatrice. I'm with Flansburgh. I'm the project manager. Thank you, Kent. And I'd like to walk us through the phasing of the project, exactly how we're proposing to build this new school in conjunction with the existing Mindess school, which has to stay, which must remain operational during construction. So just to get started here, this is an aerial view of the existing campus, and just to orientate everyone, Concord Street is at the lower end of the slide here, and Fisk Road is on the east side. The existing school you can clearly see here. And as Kent mentioned, we're proposing building the new school in this wooded area behind the existing school. This will be accomplished in phases. The first phase of the project from December 2021 to June 2023 will be the actual construction of the new school and the associated parking. This red dash line indicates the construction zone. And what that means is that's a fenced in enclosed area where all the construction activity takes place, separate from the ongoing Mindess school operations. We're proposing cutting in a temporary access road in which construction vehicles will enter and exit the site off Fisk, completely separate from school vehicles, buses and parents coming and going off Concord Street. As we drill down into the details of the project, we will be limiting construction access to the site during parent and drop-off times, just to minimize possible disturbances with the school. As mentioned, this will be fenced in completely. They'll have a scrim along that fence to also minimize the visual distraction to the students. The second phase, which we'll call phase 2A, from July 2023 to August 2023. Now, at that point, the new school and the parking is done. we're still maintaining this access road for the time being to access the new school and the site. But what we're doing here is we're demolishing the existing Mindess school. Again, this red dashed line indicates the construction zone. That's a fenced in area, and you know, where we will be, you know, controlling and focusing our construction activities on the demolition of the existing school, completion of this loop road, and completion of a little bit of this parent drop-off. That's all in an effort to get us to phase 2B. And this is what you'll see when school opens September 2023. So at that point, the new school is up and operational. We have all our parking in place. We have the parent drop-off loops all in place. At this point, we'll still be working on this bus drop-off loop and doing the field. So for this phase, the bus drop-off will utilize this loop road around the building. And then that brings us to the final phase, which is 2C, September of 2023 to May of 2024. And at this point, we've completed the campus. We've finished the existing fields, the parent loops are all in place as they were in the last phase. And now we have the bus drop-off loop in phase. So this is the whole completed campus. Playgrounds and bus loops available in the spring of 2024. The only caveat or note here is that the ball fields will require a full growing season before use. So that's a look at the phasing and how we're going to construct the project. And Kent's going to walk us through, I'm going to give this back to Kent. He's going to walk us through building organization and floor plans.
Thanks, Bill. And as the chair opened up this community forum, this is the 8th community forum. So we're probably showing you a lot of you who have been part of this process. You've seen this for a while, but we just want to do a recap here. And how we got to the building organization was really part of the visioning session that we had early on in the stage of this feasibility study. And what that was all about is establishing the type of spaces that were important to the Mindess project, and then how they should be organized with adjacencies. And here we have a organization diagram on the left side that shows the community wing, which typically consists of the gym and the cafeteria, music spaces, enrichment innovation zones, and then the academic wings. And then how did those adapt to your site and the educational program? And then the next diagram down shows the block formation of the enrichment spaces highlighted in green and how they connected the community spaces with the academic wings. And here it was clear to establish 3 independent wings for the academic portion: a 3rd grade wing, a 4th grade wing, and a 5th grade wing. Each were stacked on 2 stories, and then they consolidate together. And what's great about this project is when you tour the existing Mindess and visit the existing Mindess, it's really a long building that stretches across the site, and it's single-loaded hallways where rooms are off of a corridor. And here you're weaving the experience within the academic wings, and we're pulling everything together. So you no longer are traveling 500 feet from one side of the building to the other. Everything is really, it was right there, and you're seeing all the great things that are happening within this building. The next diagram on the right side is how we looked at special education rooms. And this is very important when it comes to the elementary school setting and how you distribute special education classrooms. And here you can see them within each of the academic wings. And we have different sizes and different spaces that accommodate the needs of the students. And this is very important as part of the MSBA process and also part of the DESC process, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. They reviewed this plan, and they thought that the distribution of the wings and the special education classrooms was appropriate for this project, and they approved this layout. And that was a lot of hard work on the district. Next slide, Bill. And what we're really excited about, what's unique, again, the building no longer stretches across the whole entire Mindess site, but it's more consolidated into these academic houses. And Assistant Superintendent Kyra, if you want to speak to some of the highlights of this organization.
Thank you, Kent. This is actually the most exciting part of the project for me, because seeing this slide shows that true partnership between our school district and the design team, who truly listened to us during our educational planning meetings and as we created our plan to move forward with the education program. What we have here are these distinct houses that allow for our different grade levels to not only work together with one another, but also to get that wonderful multi-grade feel that we've come to know and love at Mindess. These two distinct floors provide opportunity for our third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade teams who are housed in that particular pod to work together in the common areas, and they can move in and out to make sure that we have the opportunity for multi-grade collaboration. Now, as the two different classrooms sections are stacked up on each other in the first floor and the second floor, it also allows for intergrade level collaboration. So our third grade team can very easily collaborate with one another. All they have to do is go up and down a stairwell. Having that common area between allows for that increased opportunity to collaborate for our teachers and our students. And we're just incredibly excited about the fluid nature of this design, which is going to allow our teachers and our students to constantly collaborate with one another and really have that great community feel within the Mindess building.
That's great, thank you. Taking a deeper dive into the floor plans. Again, we're at schematic design, so these are still going to be developed, but this really captures the essence of the plans. Starting on the lower side of the page, we have the administration and guidance highlighted in yellow. So if you remember the site plan, they're the ones who are going to see who's coming, going into this building. So we have security right at the front of the building with the parent drop-off and the bus drop-off converging into a common entry plaza. We have eyes right on the front entry door. When you enter the building, here it was strategic to consolidate and locate the cafeteria and dining and the gymnasium. The cafeteria and the dining area also have the stage, which is the performance aspect of this. So when it comes to community use and after hours use, weekend use, it's right at the front door, and visitors don't have to travel deep into the plan. So we're able to consolidate these large functions and large venues right at the front door. Going further into the plan, when you enter the academic spaces, they're organized around an outdoor classroom. This brings a wonderful natural light into the different classrooms, and also we're able to have outdoor learning spaces as part of that. So we have the wellness program, OT-PT as part of special education, art and music, all are organized around the outdoor classroom, and they're able to utilize that space during the day. And when we go into the first floor commons, into that academic pod with the different houses, as Assistant Superintendent Kyra just described, we're able to access all of those, and they're able to join in and have small, large group work on projects and within that common space. So we're really excited about this floor plan. We're able to keep the footprint of this building consolidated, which helps to eliminate those long travel distances from one side of the building to the other that you currently occurs. And also it's more environmentally friendly because we have a smaller building footprint and less energy to use within this new plan. So we're really excited about this. And Bill, if you can go to the next slide. And the second floor plan, again, this is a two-story building. We have the remainder of the third, fourth, and fifth grade academic pods. And again, and all school common at this level, with art converging and technology integration labs converging onto this second level of common. And I want everybody to look at where it says G, that's the media center, and we also have the STEM project room. So when you enter the building on the first level and you go up the stair in the elevator, when you arrive at the second floor, this is the media center and the STEM space. So it's filled with innovation and really exciting things that are happening. And there's also another opportunity for outside learning. So we have outdoor learning at the ground plane at the first floor, also at the second floor. And we think this is very important when we go into 21st century learning, to have not only indoor opportunities, but outdoor opportunities. And here's a conceptual look at the exterior, the main entry. This is very early on. Part of this composition, we have the gymnasium off to the left that we're looking at as brick, and then the academic wings to the far right. And right in the center, again, is the main entrance, the media center, a lot of excitement. We're looking at celebrating this with architectural panels to make it distinct. And of course, a nod to the clockers. We have the clock right at the main entry tower, and we feel like this is a great highlight to make this building very special and celebrate Ashland. And next slide, Bill. And off to the east side of the school, when we looked at those academic common spaces on the first and second floor, on the first floor, they actually spill out to a great outdoor learning space where we have student gardens and lawn space for classrooms to converge. And we feel it's very important, especially dealing with COVID, that we have opportunities to bring the kids outside, able to spread out and really have a connection to nature. And I think this is a building that really speaks to its layout. When you're inside of the building, you really feel like you're outside. And that was all part of the visioning session, working closely with the district. And now Bill's going to walk us through the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, and also Chris Schaffner from the Green Engineers with sustainability. Bill? Thanks, Kent.
Just quickly looking at the mechanical systems throughout the new building. For the mechanic in general, for the mechanical, I just want to do some highlights for each system. Mechanical system, we will be using geothermal wells, and they will be our primary source of heating and cooling. We will have a supplemental heat provided by a gas boiler, small gas boiler, and the fresh air and warm air or cool air, depending on the season, will be provided by air handling units located on the roof. Electrical systems will consist of network lighting control systems throughout the building. The building will have PVs or be designed to have PVs in the future. The building will include a natural gas generator as backup power. Plumbing wise, we'll have high efficiency hot water boilers, low flow plumbing fixtures, and of course the building will be fully protected with a sprinkler system. And then I will turn it over to Chris Schaffner from Green Engineers, and he'll walk us through some of the sustainable.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. So this school is designed to be a green building, and it's designed to respond to the high bar that Ashland has set. As you all know, Ashland has voted to be net zero by 2040, and so this is a building that supports that efforts while being healthy and efficient and cost effective. And so a key part of this is how we look at energy, and the building is designed to be net zero ready and potential to be net zero depending on how much solar photovoltaics we might actually incorporate into the building. So this, a lot of parts of this, including just the orientation and massing of the building on the site, feed into this. Additionally, we have super insulated the building, so we have a very tight building envelope with not a lot of heat loss or heat gain. We mount exterior sunshades appropriately on the building to reduce the summertime heat gain while natural light into the space. And then we use a very efficient mechanical system with the geothermal in order to reduce the energy consumption and also to push most of the energy consumption on a typical daily basis onto electricity, which is going to get greener as we go to a greener grid. So some of the specific details of this are on the next slide. I'm not sure who's controlling the slides.
I am. I just switched it. Do you not see it?
Oh, there it is. Okay,
Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah. Internet. Okay, so yeah, like we said, it's a green building, and so we've estimated this building is going to be 26% more efficient just from an energy perspective compared to a typical MSBA building. MSBA, the Mass School Building Authority, requires green schools, and we are more efficient than their requirements by 26%. So that's quite a long way to go. In fact, we have something called an EUI, or energy use intensity, of 24.5, which enables us to participate with Eversource in their net zero ready building program. So we expect to be able to fully utilize all of the incentives that might be able to help us fund parts of the project. And additionally, we'll have a large reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. And that number will reduce as we add solar or as the grid gets greener. And there's a couple strategies that we use to get there. First of all, we are building this smart enough to know when it's being used and when it's not being used. And we have the ability to shut down different parts of the building at different times. So if we have an event in the evening, they're a community use, we don't have to be heating and cooling the entire building to the same level. A big part of this is the building envelope. By creating a very high performance envelope, we reduce the heating and cooling needs, and that also reduces the size of those systems, so it reduces the capital cost. And then finally, we've gone all out with this geothermal system. So the geothermal, it's a hybrid geothermal, and that means that almost all of the load will be covered by the geothermal, but we do have a little bit of gas backup for when we have a power outage, we can keep the building warm. And so on those very peak load days, we can use that if we need to make sure we can keep the building warm. So that leads to a building that is going to perform significantly better than the competition. And so we've got a little table here showing our building on the right, net zero, or sorry, on the left, net zero ready with a descending green arrow, depending on how much solar we decide to put in. You can see that if we were to put solar on the roofs and the parking capacity, parking canopies, we can actually get to zero. And we compare that on the right with a typical MSBA school, and on the extreme right, the code baseline, which would be what we built if we built just to the current energy code, which is actually one of the strongest energy codes in the state or in the country. So we're outperforming all of these by quite a bit. And the end result is a significant reduction in energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Next up, we have a animation that we'd like to run. And
Yep. So hold on one second, Bill.
Yep.
Connor, if you are ready, I don't know if you're still on, but you can, I don't think you're still on, but I think you had it queued up. So Bill, yep, he just texted me. So why don't we go ahead and do that? And just so people know what we're doing, we're going to run it here, but also WACA is going to run it through their mixer for when they're streaming it, because it will be a little choppy on Zoom here. So
okay, let's see.
Can you make that full screen there, Bill?
Yes, I can. Is it?
And Ken, I know we have the text there, but Ken, if you want.
Yeah, I'm going to walk through. So what we see here, the building, as we have the animation, it's rotating around. And now you see that academic area, that outdoor space. So the building.
Sorry, Ken.
The inside educational space spills out to the outside, as you just seen with those shapes. Overall, you see the building with the photovoltaics that we're showing. Now, again, this is something that we can look to in the future to adapt to the building, but we provided the infrastructure for the photovoltaics. And I think this is a great area where can you see I have a loading dock to the north that's discreetly located off the access road in the wooded area as we rotate around the building. You really get to have a sense of the massing and how it relates to the site. We've been breaking down this area. So to the left is the gymnasium, as you can see, that has direct access to the play areas, the baseball and the softball field. And now we come around, and here is that dedicated bus drop-off that's going to help alleviate a lot of the concerns that you have currently at the existing Mindess. And then to the right of that is the dedicated parent pickup and drop-off where you see those cars in the animation. And keeping those separate is going to create a much safer situation on the day-to-day activity of the school. So here from Concord, you will see the front entry of the school. It's clear. The main spaces of the library, the admin is front and center with the clock tower. the gym is to the left. As you enter the school, you get a great sense of how the scale and feel will be established for this new building. Again, fading to the rendering. And this is early on. There's a lot of design work to happen and a lot of conversations. And so in the next phase, we hope to have those with the community.
Seem to have lost the show. I'm sorry.
While Bill grabs the show back and loads that up, I'll introduce myself. My name is Jeff D'Amico. I'm the owner's project manager, helping lead the project all the way through design through completion. We'll be your on-your-site guy as well as the project manager. We'll have people boots on the ground. So Bill's going to bring it back up here to the schedule and cost slides, and I'm going to talk through those, and then Paul's going to come back in and talk a little bit about the tax impact in the town. So this first slide talks about the overall length of the project schedule. So essentially 3 years from now, you'd be in your new building in the fall of 23. Essentially, it's about 1 year of design and about 2 years of construction ahead of us, followed up by the demo and abatement phase, and then the final site work. So a total of 4 years from now, when you would wrap up your final project. The next slide hits a few bullet points. We're starting design next month to kick off design development. We're projecting finishing permitting and design by the early fall of 2021, and then breaking ground in early fall of 2021, with an estimated school opening of September of 23. And then, as I alluded to, demo and abatement will follow on after that. Next slide. So we'll go back one.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. So the schedule here, or the approval process. So behind us is the MSBA, the Mass School Building Authority, on October 28th approved your project scope and budget agreement. Now it's back to the town taxpayers and the residents of Ashland to approve it. As of the last few weeks, the town has decided on a town meeting day of January 9th, which is a Saturday, the 21st, and the ballot election would happen either the week before or after, as anticipated at this point. So by the middle of January, funds are in place and the project is full steam ahead at that point. Now I'll talk about cost. One more. Yeah, thanks. So the overall project budget, the building and the site, you'll note the site cost is rather large here, and we'll get into some of the reasons for that. As you started to see with the flyover, it is a rather large site, and so there's a lot of areas that we touch on that for fields and vehicular circulation. But the overall construction project itself is $67.7 million. The other line items here are the ancillary smaller things like furniture and equipment and fixtures that would go into the building as loose furnishings. That's essentially, if you tip the building upside down, whatever hits the ceiling is in that FF&E number. Design and consultant fees, and then the project management and on-site representative make up the next two categories. And then there's other administrative costs like insurance, testing and inspection, and back charges for utilities make up other administrative costs. And then we're carrying a healthy construction contingency and owner's project contingency of $3.5 million. This project, unlike other typical projects within your town, actually goes forward for full funding at the start of design development. So you need to establish a not to exceed budget. And so that's what the $84,387,000 represents. And that 84 number is inclusive of the $1 million that you've already appropriated as part of this feasibility phase. The MSBA's estimated reimbursement rate ranges from $26.2 million to $27 million. I want to talk about that more in depth in the next few slides. So what does that percentage mean? So a starting point for the town of Ashland is a 52.26% reimbursement points made up by socioeconomic and demographic factors as defined by the MSBA. There you get 2 incentive points for being a green school, and then another 1.3 for how well you maintain your buildings. So it's a total reimbursement rate of 55.5. The notes in blue, and will be explained in the further slides, are that your actual reimbursement rate, that means your effective rate, is not the 55, but it's a much lower number of 32 to 35. And that's because of a few caps and the distance between where the MSBA reimburses cost per square foot to where this particular project is and other projects are in the current marketplace. Next slide. Quickly going through those caps, the cost per square foot for the MSBA is capped at $333. That has not been updated in 2 years, despite 2 years worth of escalation, and was not on pace to keep up with market at that time, even 2 years ago. The cost of our project is closer to $645 a square foot. So you start to see that there's a big discrepancy in where the MSBA numbers are compared to the rest of the market. And partly that MSBA establishes all of these categories here to make it uniform throughout. So site costs are capped at 8%. That's keeping in line more with an urban project that has very little site work. As I alluded to in earlier slides, and as you saw from the flyover, there's a lot of site work on this particular project. So that is an area where we hit a cap pretty early. Furniture and technology, they have a number of $2,400 per student. Most projects are in the $3,200 to $3,600 per student range. And so we're in the lower end of that second range. We're below the caps for soft costs and OPM and architectural fees. And change orders, they reimburse up to 1%, but that's not determined until the end of the project once you've gone through your change orders. Next slide. Couple of exclusions, things that Ashland put into the program that the MSBA allows but is not eligible, and that's a larger gymnasium. They cap all elementary schools at 6,000. You wanted to keep, or the building committee requested to keep, an 8,000 square foot gym, which is on par with the existing gymnasium that's in the Mindess school today. Extended day is also a categorically ineligible program. We were able to do double duty with the classrooms to provide most of their space, but there was some office and some other ancillary programs that made up that 400 square feet. A few other things the MSBA allows but works into the grossing factor, additional bathrooms in the nurse's suite and a mother's nursing room. These items, the grossing factor difference is that the net square footage is the square footage that you see when you're inside the building. And the grossing factor is essentially the width of the walls and all the hidden conditions that make up the rest of the size of the building, including hallways, mechanical spaces, and other bathrooms make up the grossing factor. The bullet on the bottom is actually incorrect. The number is on a follow-up slide, which is that the MSBA does prorate a recovery cost from the previous job that they reimbursed, which was a roof replacement back in 2008 and 2011. And so that's $375,000 that they're removing from the overall reimbursement. Next slide. These are just a few bullets, again, not to belabor the point, but being a net zero project and having large site acreage, you can read the slides. There are things that drive up those respective costs, as well as the geothermal well. And those are some of the reasons why this project starts to separate itself from that very low arbitrary $333 a square foot, which is the number the MSBA reimburses at. Next slide. And so this chart, and hopefully you can read it, starts to break down what that looks like and how we go from the 55.5% to the effective rate of 32%, depending on costs. And so you'll see the feasibility study that we're in now is at that exact rate, 55.5. Administrative and architectural and engineering are close to the base rate of 55. But the biggest two items are highlighted there in orange. And that's the construction cost. And that's that delta from the 333 to the 645. And then the site cost at 8% to your rather large site cost due to the acreage at 16.6 acres of this project. And then that red number there is the cost recovery that I alluded to from previous roof replacements. The MSBA prorates the remaining useful life of the roof once the building's taken offline in 2023. So certainly we can answer more questions on this, but I'm going to turn it over to Paul to talk about tax impact, and then we'll open it up to broader questions.
Okay, thank you. So this graph just kind of is a way to illustrate the estimated debt excluded cost on the average tax bill, and trying to make it visual and simplify it for people. So what excluded debt is, you have what your typical taxes are just based on your property, just operationally how we run the town. And then what we can do, and we've done this in the past, whether it be the high school, the renovations to library, to town hall, other purchases like the Valentine. Anytime we go ahead and we do something that has to go above that levy, that's what we go to town meeting and ballot for going above that. And these debt excluded projects are shown here. And that those gray bars are what is already been pre-approved, and you'll see that they're coming down. Those are projects like the high school, the library, town hall that are being paid off. And so what this shows is the overlay of the expected cost for this project as well as the public safety project. We wanted to make sure we showed a slide that had both on there because we know that at the same time we're going to be asking the town for both projects. Focusing on the Mindess, what you'll notice here, unlike a lot of our other debt excluded projects, whether it be the purchase of a property where we'll give you the figure that it will impact your taxes and it hits in a single year, you'll see that the Mindess project doesn't fully hit the taxes until FY25. And the reason for that is for the project, we don't need to borrow the money until we need to use it. So this is an estimate based on our current cash flow projections of borrowing $6 million for the first year and then 25 in the next 2 years, and then bonding the full amount in FY25. And the reason we're able to do this is next year we're doing design development and we're just going to start site work. The other way that this is impacted is that the MSBA, unlike it did many years ago, does continual reimbursements. So reimbursements are roughly about 45 to 60 days in arrears. That means if we start paying on site costs or design costs, we pay that invoice and then we submit that for reimbursement, and the MSBA will reimburse us as we go. What that does for the project is essentially it front loads. They don't try to, even though we're limited in categories, they won't try to elongate that reimbursement over the life of the project. They will, as we incur the cost, they will reimburse us up to about the 90–95% of that category right up front. And so we don't need a lot of that money up front. So you'll see that there's very little tax impact in the first few years. And that's meaningful for a lot of people right now. We understand that. So that's something that is important for people to understand, unlike some of the other projects where we vote it and then it hits, this will not hit very quickly. So for anyone, there's a lot of people in our community that are impacted by what's going on right now with our pandemic. And so hopefully this will be sensitive to that and be helpful there. So at the bottom, it shows this is based on the average tax bill. And at the bottom, it shows what that is. This is the $427,000 is the average. And it's a combination of both the single family houses and condos. So if you want to move to the next slide. So we know that almost no one is the average, right? So how does someone figure out what this means to me and my taxes? So as I indicated, the excluded projects like this are incremental above the standard tax levy. So what we can provide you here is an incremental tax rate. And so this tax rate is roughly $1.02. And the way you can do that is to figure out your own is you take your assessed value, you divide it by 1,000 because the tax rate is per $1,000 of value, and then you multiply it by the incremental tax rate to get your particular tax impact for this. And that would be in FY25. I could provide each year, but this is the FY25, the full impact of the project in FY25. So this gives an example. If you were assessed at $500,000, the annual tax impact starting in FY25 would be roughly $512. So, and if you need to find your particular evaluation, if you don't have your tax bill handy, the link at the bottom of the page you can search your own property and pull up the valuation for FY20 from that link. So with that, I know we threw a lot of information out there. And if anybody has any questions or comments, now would be the time. If you can, you know what, why don't I just do this? If you can raise your hand, but I'll allow people to unmute themselves at this point because we're done with the presentation. So if you could raise your hand in there, we'll acknowledge you, and then you can tell us your name and then ask any questions. All right, I see Sandra. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi.
Good evening.
Hello, my name is Sandra, and this is my first time joining the call. I am a resident of Ashland, and my son is in preschool this year, so he would be attending Mindess. And I'm excited about the new school. It looks amazing. I have some concerns that are related to our particular family and our own health situation. And I wanted to share that on November 1st, there was a New Hampshire legislative committee that analyzed and issued a report for the first time in the US, which included recommendations, and it's on the harmful effects of electromagnetic radiation, or EMFs, from wireless technologies. And so the recommendations in their report include schools being hardwired and Wi-Fi removed. So I just wanted to share, I know Massachusetts has similar legislation teed up. And my take is that it would be kind of unwise to invest further in wireless solutions. And I can put the report in the chat for people to read.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
I think Mark did.
Yeah, Mark, do you know how to unmute? You're welcome to.
Yes, good evening. And good presentation. It says, going to ask maybe on the tax side of things, why is a single family house going to be taxed more than a family condo in the first 2 or 3 years? And is that going to even out once the construction and then this building is finished? Is the single family going to get taxed more in the first 2 or 3 years before the 5-year start? Or is the family condo going to be taxed less? Thank you.
Yeah, sure, Mark. Everybody is taxed at the same rate. We have a flat tax rate in Ashland, both for residential and business property. So properties are all taxed at the same rate. And what that means is it's all based on the property value. So certainly there might be a single family house that has been evaluated, has a valuation less than a condo in town. So in that case, the actual taxes collected for this would be less for that house than the condo. So it's all relative to the valuation of the property. So the numbers we presented on that slide, if you want to go back to the chart there, Bill, the effort here is to, if I just give you a chart that says, here's the average and nobody knows what the average is, we want to provide that information. So both of those are just averages, right? So the average single family house is 471 and the average single family condo is 342. Those are the valuations of those properties, Mark. So, and those are the average. Certainly there are $1 million homes and there are $250,000 homes and there's everything in between. So they're taxed based on the value of the property. Hope that helped.
Okay, and in the first 2 or 3 couple of years, how old? I'm just going with family houses again. How old are those single family houses going to be? Because there's a lot of old family single houses that had families moving in and out throughout the years, and there's different tax rates, dependents, and taxable incomes that come in those single family houses compared to family condos. What's the difference in that?
Yeah, so Mark, this is all based on these are property taxes. So income, if someone is making has a very large salary and lives in a $250,000 house, they'll get taxed at $250,000 house rate. And if vice versa, if somebody doesn't even have a job and just has a lot of money stashed away and they have $1 million home, they're going to be taxed based on that $1 million home, not on their income.
So would that, this would be it right here. So would that be a catch up or a, when you start doing the 2025 construction, how is that going to be balanced out with newer developments being built in the town, with newer families and newer cluster developments? Thank you, I'm done.
Yeah, so Mark, and that's why we have a tax rate. So the tax rate, so any new developments, if someone had just built a house last year, the tax rate is applied to their value of their house. So the way it works is the total value of all real and personal property is a very large number, and that is taken in conjunction with the levy and figured out how much we need. That's how their tax rate is figured. So you have how much we need to collect with the levy, and then that value, and that's how the tax rate is configured. And then for every individual, your slice of that contribution is determined by taking your evaluation and using that tax rate.
And again, thank you. And I just wanted to say that I'm hoping I'm not the first person throughout all the forums to bring that up. But I'm not against the project. I'm just looking at it down the road. I'm unemployed and I live with my father in the single family house, and I'm just looking down the road as property taxes and the rates itself down the road work up. We don't have a horse in the schools to work with. So thank you. I'm done.
Yeah, no problem, Mark. And I know it's complicated, and for you or anybody else out there that has questions, wants me to prepare a graph like this for a particular valued home, I'd be happy to do that. Just reach out to me. I certainly know that municipal finance is complicated. Other questions, comments? KJ?
Hi, yeah, I just had a question, and I apologize, I'm sort of new to this forum. Of how, in the design, I know we're in early stages, I was curious to know how accessibility is planned for with a 2-story school. And then the other piece was, what discussions were had about how does this give the town flexibility to adjust over time? Obviously, this meets our needs today. There's lots of exciting innovation in there, but what does this look like for the school to have flexibility, 10, 15 years down the road?
Sure.
I can respond to that, Paul.
Yeah, while you're doing that, Bill, can you go back to the floor plan? I'm assuming that's where he's going to want to go.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
So
Ken.
this is Kent from the design team. So part of one part is flexibility in the future. When you partner with the Massachusetts School Building Authority, they require that you look at the building expanding if you have a population growth by up to 15%. And so if you look at this floor plan, you can see that there's an additional wing that can accommodate 5 to 6 classrooms on 2 stories. And so that's for the growth. And one reason is we don't want to design the school and run utilities in that area, put parking lots in that area. We want to leave that. So if this is a real thing 5, 10 years from now, you can come and you can do a very straightforward addition that's not going to have you rip up what you did previously. And So partnering up with the MSBA, they make sure that you build for the future. And the other part of it is through the visioning sessions and a lot of dialogue, the gymnasium, it was a desire by the district to go a little larger than the MSBA standard. And it aligns with exactly what you have right now for your gymnasium at 8,000 square feet. So we built in a larger gymnasium, as well as a lot of spaces that are not on the MSBA default template. Currently, you have STEM programs, wellness programs. You have offices that support Title I. And those spaces do not appear on the default template. And so the MSBA encourages the district to vet through the programming very diligently, and your district has. And they added a lot of spaces that you currently have, and that's expected. And the Massachusetts School Building Authority supported a lot of those spaces and for reimbursement. And so when you look to the future and answer your question, the school did a good job, I would say, future-proofing this building and making sure you get what meets your program and your future needs beyond what the MSBA, the Massachusetts School Building Authority, would have for an elementary school of this size. As far as being on 2 stories, that's fairly common with elementary schools. There are, for accessibility, if you're familiar with the Mindess right now, it's a long building that stretches from one side of the site to the other, and you're going up ramps and stairs. And in one area, they were clever and they retrofitted some locker rooms that kind of climb up the ramp. The first floor is completely level. The second floor is completely level. There's one elevator that services the building, and that's appropriate for this size. And we have a main stair from the entrance that brings you to the second floor. We have 3 stair towers associated with each of the academic wings. So as far as circulation, accessibility, this is a pretty well organized building. We've had meetings with police and fire department in Ashland, and I think they recognize that this is a very straightforward, very easy to access building. And again, this was reviewed at the board meeting for the Massachusetts School Building Authority, and I think they kind of echoed the same, that it's a good organization, it's easily accessible, and it's ready for future growth. So I hope that helps with your question.
It does. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, and KJ, your question kind of hits on some of the other things we've heard a little bit from people who have tried to find some information about the project. If you look at our current gross square foot of our building and this new one, it's not, from a gross square foot perspective, all that much bigger. And so the question people, have rightfully asked is, well, hold on a second. Part of the reason we need this is overcrowding. So how is this going to service us now and in the future if we're already overcrowded with our current building? And that's a very valid question. So to answer that, there's a lot of wasted space in our current building, right? So it's very long. One of the things that we didn't highlight here that we're losing is we have an auditorium in the current building. So in this one, MSBA does not support auditoriums in elementary schools. What they support is what's called a cafetorium. So you'll see in the cafeteria, there's a stage there. So there's 1,000 square foot stage that they do support. And that's kind of co-located next to the music and things like that. And also those long drawn out hallways that contribute to those gross square foot aren't in this building. This building is more compact. The classrooms, the current classrooms we have at Mindess do not meet current standards. So these new classrooms are larger. So while if you're looking at it from a macro perspective, the gross square footage might not seem like it's accomplishing a lot from a capacity standpoint, but this school has substantially more capacity to service students than our current one. And so we're pretty confident that we won't need to do that future expansion, but as Kent mentioned, as part of this process, we had to. So I hope that also gives people that have that question the confidence that, hey, this is only X number of square foot larger than our current, but I can assure you that the capacity to service students is substantially increased with this building.
No, I appreciate the extra information. It does look great. That's helpful to understand. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions, comments? So I just also want to highlight, we have heard when we've been out talking to people that they think we've already approved this project. And so I want to highlight what Jeff had mentioned before, in that what we did approve back in 2018 was the work we've done so far. So we approved the budget for the feasibility study that we've gone through to this stage. And what is required for us to move forward is the town meeting vote and a ballot vote. And as he said, that next step happens in January. On January 9th is the town meeting. And the ballot, we have not set the date yet, but it's likely going to be within the 2 weeks after that town meeting. And for anyone who may be watching this, watch it later, I will be putting something together and sending it out. We will be offering, for lack of better terms, road shows where we will, if you want to host your neighbors, a small group or anything like that, to talk about, answer questions, that will be available. You can, reach out to us and we can schedule that, and we will, answer everyone's questions as best we can. We can focus in and drill down on any amount of detail people would like. Anybody have any additional comments or questions? All right. Anything from from any committee members or any other comments people have? All right. Well, I thank everyone for joining us, and if there's nothing else, then I think we're good. And we did have this was our meeting, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn from one of our members.
So moved.
Second.
All right, that was Yolanda and Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.